This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is January 6th, 2025. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, you can't say January 6th anymore without it feeling weird, but that is today's date, so there is that.
Well, it's a statement of fact. Today is January 6th. It is your birthday, as they say on The Office. But yeah, rough day, right? I mean, I'm not talking about January 6th. I mean, yes, that was. But I'm talking about
This is
tonight.
off to a hot
This is
start.
off to a great start. Yeah, rough night here tonight as we're recording this on Sunday night, not January 6th. Yeah, one of the lowest points maybe for the Magic season thus far, the loss to the Jazz, which we'll talk about, but still a lot to be excited about. Got some potentially healthy guys coming back soon, but yeah, things are good, man. Ultimately can't complain.
Yeah, to me, this does feel like the low point of the season, and not to be like melodramatic or anything like that, because like we're still in a very good place, and we'll talk about that and keep the proper perspective at some point. But full trigger warning: if you woke up today and you're like looking for a Magic therapy session, welcome, because I think that's really going to be what this episode is going to be about today. But before we get to that, want to remind you all of our watch party that is coming up on January 17th when the Magic take on the Boston Celtics. We are going to be at the Stadium Club located at Caribe Royale, Orlando. The address is 8101 World Center Drive. Again, Magic versus the Celtics on ESPN. Tip-off is at 7 o'clock. That watch party is going to get started around 6:30. And this, in my opinion, is going to be the dopest venue that we've ever done a watch party at. We're really excited. It's a brand new spot. Again, at Caribe Royale, Orlando. Awesome food, awesome drinks. The sports simulator reservation, like bays that they have there. The full bar with the 360 video board. The lighting in there. It's when the kids say it's a vibe, this is a vibe. So looking forward to that. Kevin won't be there, unfortunately, but the rest of the crew will be there, and looking for a Magic win that night. Hopefully we'll have Paolo Banchero back. All signs are pointing to him returning somewhat soon. I would say 2 weeks at the absolute most right now is what it feels like, Kevin. So, or week and a half. It feels like it's really, really close. We were hoping that it was tonight. It wasn't tonight. But yeah, once again, coming out to that watch party, going to be a ton of fun. Again, that is Stadium Club, which is located at Caribe Royale, Orlando. The address is 8101 World Center Drive in Orlando. And then this Saturday, Kevin and I will both be in town for Jam Fest over at Jam Hot Chicken. Our friends located over at 400 West New England Ave. They are celebrating their third year anniversary with their third annual Jam Fest. Our boy Gio from Players Only Closet is going to be there as well with some dope vintage Magic gear. They're going to be doing Jam Hot Chicken specials all day long. They usually do live music, things like that. So make sure that you come on out to that. That's going to be Saturday from, I believe it's 11 to 7 p.m. at 400 West New England Avenue in Winter Park. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Always good not just to support, a show that supports us, but just support local businesses, people that are working hard and making lives better, for customers like you and me. And so that'll be fun. We'll also be at the game Friday night, by the way. So if you see us against Milwaukee there on Friday, come say hi, and hopefully we get a Magic win for that night as well.
Kevin, first NBA All-Star voting returns were on Thursday. And to our, pleasant surprise, I would call it, Paolo Banchero, fourth right now in the Eastern Front Court voting with 484,000 votes. And Franz Wagner in seventh, 787,000 votes. So Paolo Banchero beating out names like Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler, Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, Franz with more votes than guys like Joel Embiid, Paul George, Evan Mobley, Jordan Poole, Tyler Hero. So I think I was a little bit surprised to see those guys so high up in the All-Star voting, because I don't believe they're going to make it at this point just due to the amount of time that they've missed. But good to see our guys getting some love, Kev.
Yeah, surprised for sure. For me, Paolo was the bigger surprise, honestly, just because he's played 5 games, technically 4, really 4.5. We'll call it that before he got hurt in the second half of the Chicago game. Yeah, so I was surprised that he was on here at all. And for him to be 4th in the Eastern Conference front court blew my mind. Like, I could not believe it. But you know what that tells me, Jonathan? That tells me that Paolo Banchero is more of a household name than I think even I thought, right? Because it's not like Paolo's, played this whole season and all of a sudden he's turning heads and people are like, oh, every time, their team plays the Magic, they see Paolo do X, Y, and Z this season. No, it's people know Paolo is Paolo. Maybe it's from last season, maybe it's from the playoffs, maybe it is from the 50-point game he had right before he got hurt. I don't know. But the fact that he has just under 500,000 votes with only playing, he hasn't played since end of October, very first week of November. I don't remember what date that was.
It was October 29th or October 30th.
That's right. Yeah, the injury was Halloween. That's right. Announced on Halloween, the day after the game. You're right. So yeah, October 30th. So he has not played since October, and he has this many votes. That blew me away. When it comes to Franz, though, if anything, I thought maybe it would be the other way around, that he might actually be higher in the list. Like the fact that he's behind Jimmy Butler it's just so stupid. Like it's ridiculous, right? So if you ask me, like I would have thought, Giannis, Jason Tatum, Karl Anthony Towns, Jaylen Brown. I would have expected Joel Embiid to be above him. But then I thought Franz Wagner could have been right there. And so maybe it's about fair where he is now. But if Franz was 5th or 6th, I wouldn't have been surprised just because of how well he played for such a longer term than Paolo. But Paolo being 4th, I think is really, really cool. That bodes well for him for sure.
The logic doesn't exactly check out because Paolo's so high, but I do think had Franz not gotten hurt, he would probably be a little bit higher. But like I said, logic doesn't work out because Paolo hasn't played since October. But yeah, it's interesting because allegedly nobody watched that playoff series last year, but he was an all-star last year, so maybe that's part of it. Like people, he was an all-star last year, he must be an all-star this year. And then the 50-point game, I think, certainly helps. But like that night, the 50-point game just wasn't even really on social media. Like I remember there being like 6 Wemby posts that night and like one mention of Paolo Banchero by like the NBA Twitter account. So I don't know. It is encouraging to see Paolo that high. And we all know, if Paolo and Franz both would have been healthy and both playing, I think both guys make the All-Star team this year, which is really exciting. And if Franz hadn't got hurt, like the dude was entering the MVP conversation. So I think he probably maybe would have fallen a little bit because I don't know if the Magic would have been able to sustain that level of winning. Maybe they would have. Who knows? He was just playing so well, which just it makes me even more sad about, everything that's happened tonight. But before we jump into that, let's jump over into our Orlando Magic weekly state of the Magic. This week, the Magic went 1-2 with a loss Wednesday to the Pistons, a win over the Raptors on Friday, and a Sunday evening loss to the then 8-win Utah Jazz. Currently at 21-16, the Magic are sitting at 4th in the East, 11 games back of Cleveland, 5.5 games back of Boston, 3.5 games back of New York, 2 games up on Milwaukee and Miami, 2.5 games up on Atlanta and Indiana, and 3 games up on Detroit, 4 games up on Chicago. So even though the Magic had the loss Sunday, you got a little bit lucky because the night before the Knicks lost, the Bucks lost, the Hawks lost, the Heat lost. So yes, you lost, but it doesn't hurt you a ton in the standings, which helps a little bit, but this loss still feels pretty bad. The Magic on the season are 26th in the league in offensive rating with an offensive rating of 108.5, which means per 100 possessions, the Magic are scoring 108.5 points. And they are second in the league now in defensive rating, just behind OKC. They jumped over Houston with a defensive rating of 106.4, which you guessed it, means per 100 possessions, the Magic are allowing their opponents to score 106.4 points. And they are now 10th in the league in net rating with a positive net rating of 2.1, which means per 100 possessions, the Magic are outscoring their opponents by 2.1 points. Taking a look at the injury report, and let me load that up again here. Paolo Banchero still out with the return to competition reconditioning designation. That's a lot of issues there. Anthony Black was available tonight. We'll talk about that in just a second. Coming back from the low back contusion. Gary Harris out again with the left hamstring strain. Mac McClung on the two-way, he wasn't available tonight. Jalen Suggs was hurt Friday against the Toronto Raptors. Just makes a very routine non-contact play on defense in the first half and just went down holding his back. As a guy who has lower back and disc herniations and disc injuries in the past, that was my biggest fear because I've gone down like that on a basketball court, I don't know, almost a handful of times because of the injuries that I've had to my back and to the discs that I have herniated in my lumbar spine. That's where my mind went. But he was ruled out pretty quickly with a low back strain and back spasms, I think they called it at the time. So him having the low back strain designation does seem like a positive at this point, and hopefully he won't miss too much time. Franz Wagner still out with the torn right oblique, and Mo Wagner still out with the torn ACL in the left knee. Kevin, Anthony Black was available tonight but didn't see the floor. The Magic only dressed 12 guys. So I tweeted out during the game, it was around the 4:40 mark in the second quarter, and we still hadn't seen Anthony Black on the floor. So in my mind, they were making him available and dressing him in a break glass in cases of emergency type of scenario where somebody fouls out or somebody gets hurt and you just need another guy to be on the floor. But Anthony Black didn't see the floor, and Jamal Mosley gave one of the stranger reasonings for him not playing tonight. I think you have the quote pulled up.
Yeah, Jason Beatty is the one who asked him the question about, Anthony Black was available, but he didn't play tonight. What went into that? And this is Jamal Mosley's answer. I'm just going to read it word for word as Jason Beatty notated it. I think being able to get him in the right way is going to be very important. I think tomorrow will be something that we'll have to look at, but just throwing him out there in a game like this, as it was the first day of him being made available, we're going to have to look at some more time, some more pregame reps to be able to look at it the right way. And we'll see how that looks tomorrow as well. Jonathan, AI isn't very old. Just a couple years ago, this sounds like something if you'd ask AI to write something about this is about what they'd come up with. Because it's just a whole lot of nonsense that doesn't really make sense, which, again, that's kind of the Orlando Magic way, right? That's how the front office operates. That's how the coaching staff tends to operate. Say a lot without saying anything at all. But it's just very, to me, it's just comical, right? The idea of him being available and they're saying, well, we don't want to throw him out there like this. This is his first day of being available, but that's what happens in sports. If you're made available, you're available. That's when you play. If you're not available, then don't put available on it. Now, the flip side of this coin is the Magic are just so decimated with injuries right now that they have to put some guys on the bench, I guess, and so maybe that's what they did. They just put him on the bench and called him available, even though he wasn't really available. But then if that's the case, just answer it that way. Beatty says, why didn't you play him? Well,
that's my thing. Just be honest.
Yeah, well, because he's not ready to play yet. Just call it that. But to say, he's available, but we didn't think we want to get him out there on the first day of him being available. We want to get him in the right way. How do you get a guy in the game the right way? I don't know. The whole thing cracked me up. It's very silly for this whole thing. But again, it's pretty much par for the course.
Unless that is something that I don't want to say they're trained by the league to do, but in the instance that you're trying to, if he's okay to play, but they didn't want to rush him back, right? And they wanted to possibly give him another day. I'm fine with you saying hey, he was kind of just available in case, with all the injuries that we've had, we needed to dress a guy, and he would have been able to go in the case that we absolutely needed him if, we had guys foul out or get injured or whatever. Unless it is some kind of trickery where he's not actually healthy and they listed him to be available because you have to list 12 guys available. I don't know the rule behind that. I haven't heard that before. But unless they're trying to do some kind of trickery and the NBA doesn't want you to just come out and say that, like you said, it's just kind of a bunch of nonsense. Jeff Weltman is the master of saying a lot and saying nothing. Jamal Mosley to me is the master of saying a lot that is nothing and still saying nothing. Like sometimes he'll just have these quotes that just you're like, what did you just say? Kind of thing. But again, there's something that they don't want to lead on about, and that's why you get answers like that. But just very strange in the moment. Like I was listening to that after the post game, like, huh? What did you just say? But whatever. Ultimately, it's really not that big of a deal. I don't even think Anthony Black would have made that big of a difference in this game, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately not. But yeah, still love you, Mosley, by the way. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, the minute you have to have 8 players to start a game, right? It's not like the number is 12. It is 8. But like you said, maybe it was if guys get and someone else gets hurt, some foul trouble, whatever, and you just need him. But yeah, I just wish he'd be like, yeah, this is the situation instead of saying all the
very strange. Say. Like I know the Magic, they don't want anybody to know anything, but we're having a ridiculously stupid conversation right now because of like this information vacuum that they create themselves at times. It's like if you would just give us any little bit of anything, we wouldn't be wasting our time having this conversation right now. But here we are wasting time. Whatever. Who cares, I guess. Before we talk about the disaster that was Sunday night against the Utah Jazz, let's go back to Friday, which was kind of fun and was like sort of a relief, but also at the same time was like kind of frustrating in like a weird kind of way because the Magic have their best shooting performance of the season, making 19 of 44 threes, good for 43% from behind the arc, and their 106-97 victory over the Toronto Raptors. And it's like, sure, like they won this game by hitting a ton of threes, but you don't want the Magic taking 44 threes. They started the game, what was it, 9 of 14 in the first quarter, and then shot 10 of 30 the rest of the way, which is 33%, which is fine. But it just goes to show you that, yeah, you guys had a really hot first shooting quarter, and then you kind of settled the rest of the game, and you didn't really shoot the ball all that well. Like you won this game by 9 points, but it really just felt like you sort of survived. Like Jakob Poeltl was 11 of 12. Ochai Agbaji was 6 of 9, but none of the other Raptors really could put together multiple like solid offensive possessions outside of Scotty Barnes getting hot for like a few possessions in the third quarter. And again, like I don't want to jump too far ahead into what we're going to talk about, but since Franz has gone out, the Magic really haven't looked like the Magic. And that, I guess, should speak for itself when you're down guys like Paolo and Franz and Moritz Wagner and now Jalen Suggs as well. But and you didn't get down a ton in the beginning of this game, which was a good sign. And it has become a pattern. Yeah, right. We didn't see that, but it's just still you're when you're winning games, you're not really winning games the Magic way. Now, part of the Magic way is like we're going to continue to fight no matter what. And some of the wins, and I think you're 5-8 in your last 13 games now without Franz Wagner, and 3 of those have legitimately been miracles. Yeah. So you take those away, and you're a couple of minutes in each of those games away from those being losses, and you're 3-10 or 2-11 in your last 13.
Yeah, but a couple of those games were also one possession losses, right? So you could flip it the other way and say, the Magic could be 7 and 6 in 13.
Overall point that I'm trying to make, and I don't think there's really an answer until guys get back and people are in their correct roles, but it just seems like the Magic have lost their identity. And of course that's going to happen when you're down as many guys as we are, but in my opinion, it would be a little bit easier to stomach some of these losses if we were playing Magic basketball in them. Like if you were still trying to stick to your beliefs and the way that you're going to play in some of these losses, it would feel okay. But like even in some of these wins, like for the majority of the game, we're not playing Magic basketball. So I don't know. It's very frustrating. And my frustration of Sunday's loss, which we are going to talk about, is bleeding into this, and I'm not going to ignore that.
That's what I was going to say. So let me talk about Friday's game really fast. Jonathan,
Tristan was awesome.
Oh no! Hold on. I got something. I got something here for you. You know those like artists where all they have to do is like just splatter paint on a canvas and a normal person, I shouldn't say normal, someone who does not have an appreciation for art like myself just looks at it and goes, oh, what is that? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, it's sold for $3.5 million. Like it's worth something. That's how I felt about this game. So it was like, that was ugly, but also like had some nice moments, but like, what is it worth? Oh, it's worth a win. Oh, wow. That's surprising to me. That's how this game was to me. Cause it's like, that was just not, like you said, not how Magic basketball is played, but they were also knocking down a bunch of shots in the first half. And so that led to the Magic, like we said, getting out to the lead, shooting the ball really well. Unfortunately, they just fell in love with the 3-ball, right? And so from then on, it was just like, hey, we're going to ride the hot hand, but the hot hand died. And with it, the chucking should have died too, but it didn't. It just kept going, seemingly, all night long. And then the Raptors actually made a run in that fourth quarter to make it, I wouldn't call it dicey, but it definitely got Magic fans squirming a little bit, just because we've seen this a lot this season on the other end. And so ultimately, where I stand with this is, as long as we're without all these guys, you just find a way to win. I really don't care. Now, yes, if you start winning the quote unquote wrong way, that can develop habits that can change things down the road. But for me right now, I'm just find a way to win. I don't care how. So ultimately I'm okay with it. But yeah, it was definitely a strange game on Friday.
And now, time for one of our favorite segments each and every week. This week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week, sponsored by Jam Hot Chicken, obviously, one of our partners. And each week we go through the last week of Magic Dunks and we find the very best one. Unfortunately, this one did come in a loss. I'm going to take us back to Wednesday night against the Detroit Pistons to the 4:57 mark in the second quarter. The Magic were down 38-49. Jalen Suggs drives to the free throw line, goes between the legs, pump fakes, gets Asar Thompson up off of his feet. He drives to the basket. Jalen Duren comes over to try to block Jalen's attempt at the rim. Jalen sees it coming. The right-handed wraparound behind the back dish to Goga Bitadze. Goga Bitadze up and down strong with two hands to cut the lead to 9. That is this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. And speaking of Jam Hot Chicken is proudly serving the city beautiful and bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Jam Hot Chicken is a Nashville and LA-inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated in Winter Park, Florida, by die-hard Magic fans, located over at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. Be sure to follow them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media and check out jamhotchickenfl.com to access the menu, online ordering, music playlists, all things Jam Hot. And if you don't want to leave your house, you don't want to head over to Winter Park, you can get on your Uber Eats app and get Jam Hot Chicken delivered right to your door. A big shout out to our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken, and see you all at Jam Fest this Saturday at Jam Hot Chicken from 11 to 7.
That'll be fun. What also is fun is our patrons. 5 of them are Court Cousins, Shahin177, Half Rican, El Magico, and Jamel Miller. Like I said, those are 5 of our patrons, specifically our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons. We shout out a handful of those on every single episode. We also shout out our brand new patrons. And this week, we have Jay Ponce in Ryle, a brand new patron of ours. Big shout out to you. Thank you so much for joining our Patreon. What are patrons? Who are they? What do they do? Well, they're the people that financially support the Six Man Show and make all of this possible. If you've ever thought about that, if you ever thought, hey, want to support the content these guys make and support the community that we're building, you can go to patreon.com/The Six Man Show. There you'll see the different tiers and options that we have available. You can pick one that's right for you. And just like that, you can financially support the show and make all of these things possible. Again, whether it's watch parties or episodes or events or shirts like we just had. All those things wouldn't be possible without our amazing patrons. So again, head to patreon.com/The Six Man Show to sign up. And big shout out to all of our amazing patrons. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Just want to add, last 5 games, the Magic are 9th in defensive rating, and they are 27th in overall net rating, last 5 games. So take that how you will. But
yeah, just says how bad the offense is. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's really been very bad. But yeah, Tristan da Silva was legitimately amazing in that game Friday. Amazing. He was 25 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 9 of 13 from the floor, 5 of 7 from behind the arc. Just ridiculous offensive display. Like people have been saying Franz light. Like people have been saying that since the draft. Like honestly, like even back to last season, I saw people like during the NBA season, like looking at tape from Tristan da Silva at Colorado, saying like there are Franz elements to this guy's game. When some of like the earliest mock drafts came out, and some people had the Magic drafting Tristan da Silva, which obviously ended up happening. But you can absolutely 100% see it. I don't think he's going to be Franz, right? Like that would be setting pretty lofty expectations on him. But I genuinely would not be surprised if somehow, some way, 2-3 years from now, the Magic are starting Jalen Suggs, Tristan da Silva, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and some center. Or if Tristan da Silva isn't like our 6-man, a guy that can, like, legitimately a guy capable of winning 6-man of the year, putting up like 17, 18 points a game off the bench. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw one or two people on Friday after that game call Tristan baby Franz. Like, you guys realize he is older than Franz Wagner. That's the other thing, right? Like, I know he's a rookie and everything, and Franz, this is his third year. This is fourth year. But yeah, he is older than Franz Wagner by only a couple months or something like that. But still, I thought that was really funny. Yeah, older than Franz Wagner. But I mean, you don't win this game without him, right? Like that's the thing. Like, he has had a couple games like this where he has been so impactful. We've said it many times. He's very consistent. Yes, he's had a couple bad games over the last couple weeks, but again, when the guys that are attracting so much attention disappear, now everyone who's on the court is getting whatever level of attention that is. And so that's going to happen. But he was excellent on Friday. And not just statistically, where you look at him, you go 25 points on 5 of 7 from 3, blah, blah, blah. He had some really timely buckets in this game, especially in the fourth quarter. Like I was talking about when the Raptors were making that run, the Magic literally gave the ball to Tristan da Silva and said, save us. And that's what he did, which is crazy. Rookie, put in this situation. I know it's the Raptors. They're not very good, but it's a great experience for him. And I certainly agree. Tristan da Silva has solidified a spot in this rotation, I think, long-term for the Magic as well as short-term.
I forget which game it was semi-recently where like we were running the offense. It was a home game. We were running the offense through Tristan it was the Celtics game. Running the offense through Tristan like 3 out of the last 4 possessions, and it didn't go well. And the last possession that Jalen was initiating the offense, we ended up getting Tristan the wide open corner 3, which ended up being the game winner. And I was like, why are we running the offense through Tristan? At this point, no Jalen, none of these other guys. You're doing it by necessity. And maybe it's one of those things that, again, it's going to be good in the long term for Tristan. One thing that I've been meaning to bring up the last couple of pods is when this dude puts on that Germany uniform and Franz is playing at the level that he's been playing at for Germany, like Dennis Schroeder, Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner, Tristan da Silva, like that is going to be a really good freak. Like, I mean, they won the World Cup, not this past summer, but the summer before.
Without
Tristan.
Made it
without Tristan, exactly, and without Franz for most of that tournament. And then they made the semifinal, and they made the bronze medal game in the Olympics. Like, dude, Germany is gonna. I get so excited every summer to watch them, and looking forward to seeing Tristan join that team as well, because man, they're gonna be really freaking good. Goga wasn't awesome offensively. 11 points, 3 of 9, but had 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks. Like really solid Goga game. Really good Kentavious Caldwell-Pope game, 15 points. He was 6 of 10, 3 of 7 from behind the arc. And Corey Joseph, another guy with timely buckets off the bench, 11 points, 3 of 5 from behind the arc. Really helped get that offense going in the first half. And yeah, this was a game where you get off to a big lead in the first half. The Raptors just kind of chipped away at it, especially in the third and fourth quarters, and then you were able to really survive, right? Like, it felt like this win was buoyed by the shooting in that first quarter particularly. But yeah, good to get a win in Toronto for sure. Now, let's talk about tonight's loss to the Utah Jazz.
You all been listening to the Six Man Show, and we will catch you guys. Oh, no, we have to.
Yeah, Kevin, before we jumped on, he was like, hey, man, if this is a 15-minute episode, he's like, I'm totally good with that. Let me read you the Utah Jazz injury report. Because when this came out, I was like, oh, man, we got this in the bag. Jordan Clarkson out. John Collins out. Keontae George out. Taylor Hendricks out. Lauri Markkanen out. Oscar Tshiebwe out. Cody, well, those guys are two-way guys. And then Colin Sexton has been dealing with a left fourth finger dip avulsion fracture.
Oh,
so
ouch.
the poor shooting for Colin Sexton kind of makes sense if he's still dealing with that. But when I heard all of that, I was like, this is a 7-win or an 8-win coming into tonight, an 8-win Utah Jazz team on the second night of a back-to-back where they just blew out the Miami Heat, and they're sitting like 4 of their top 5 guys, essentially. You have to win this game. I don't care who we do not have. And not only did the Magic not win this game, is they really didn't even come close with the 92-105 loss to the Utah Jazz, a game in which the Magic shoot 35.7% from the floor, 14 of 47 from behind the arc, 29.8% from behind the arc, 8 of 13. The percentage isn't great, but what concerns me more in this game was just the lack of aggressiveness and the lack of free throw attempts. And you force 22 Utah Jazz turnovers, and you're only able to turn that into what ended up being 21 points off turnovers. So every other of those turnovers you were able to turn into points. At one point, I think it was like we had 6 or 8. We had 6 or 8 turnovers and turned that into 4 points. But this is another game where it did not feel like we were watching the Orlando Magic. First of all, the starting lineup tonight: Caleb Houston, Tristan Da Silva, Goga Batazic, and Tavis Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, another different starting lineup for this year. I forget how many different starting lineups that brings us to on the year. But again, the worst defensive team in the league this year in terms of defensive efficiency, and you put up 92 points and you shoot 35% at home on their second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah, this one, when you open the show talking about didn't feel like Magic basketball, this one maybe more than any game this season, honestly.
This was, in my opinion, is the worst loss of the year. The only game that comes close to me is the Miami game when you were up 17 or 18 points.
Right.
There are losses that have probably felt worse, like the Knicks loss, just, the in-season tournament game because of the stakes and getting the crap kicked out of us again by the Knicks. But like when you just look at the context, to me, this is the worst loss of the year.
Right. And my thinking behind that is less about the offense, although the offense is atrocious, but it's always atrocious. It's terrible every night. There are some specific guys offensively that I'm really offended by tonight. But defensively, that's the group that the Jazz put out there. You give 105 points, which for most NBA teams, you'll take that. For the Orlando Magic, you won't. This Magic team, and again, I know we're missing guys. Trust me. I know it. But we have built an identity around this whole idea of defense, and our identity should carry us to being able to hold this version of the Utah Jazz under 100 points, right? If they've got Lauri Markkanen, if they've got Keontae George, if they've got Jordan Clarkson, go on the list. If they're healthy, sure, give up 100 points to them, right? But with the guys they're missing, literally you just had to stop Colin Sexton and Bryce Sensabaugh, and you couldn't do it. I mean, I know obviously you hold Colin Sexton to a low shooting night. That's fine. But you can't let Bryce Sensabaugh kill it. Look, Central Florida guy, happy for him. Glad he's playing well. Glad he cooked the Heat last night, but you can't let him drop 27 on you. You just can't. So that's the part that frustrates me. Offensively, man, I don't even know if I can talk about the offense, man. The starters scored 36 points, Jonathan. 36 points. And I know they're not the normal starters, and I get that. But a couple of them are. One of them is getting paid $27 million this year, something like that. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope?
I think it's 23.
23.
But it's still a lot of money.
It's a lot more than me. Let's put it that way. And he scored 2 points tonight.
22 million. Average
22?
annual value of 22.
Well,
it's still a lot of money. Like the point is just as relevant.
2 points tonight. 1 of 8 from the field. 0-4 from 3. You talk about free throw shooting. How is KCP not getting the free throw line? Like why? I don't understand. Like if this team is just so desperate to score the basketball, he of all people should know, just take it to the rim, see what happens. I know they got Walker Kessler back there. I get it. But man, it's just not good enough for me. I don't know. I don't know if I can say anything else about the offense. It's so hard to watch right now.
And he picked up another tech, his 7th, which I think is third, tied for 3rd in the league now. And it feels like it's his 4th or 5th tech in the last, I don't know, 11 or 12 games. Like we went from a team that like almost never got technical fouls, it felt like, to now we're getting 1 or 2 per game in the last couple of weeks. And I do understand, number one, just like the underlying level of frustration of the grind of the NBA season, and you continue to lose guys, and like the expectations for the season are still there. I think you can still achieve even like the loftiest expectations that you had this year. I think the Magic still could end up 3rd or 4th in the East. If they were healthy, they legitimately could be the 2nd seed in the East right now. But I get that level of frustration, number one, that every guy is carrying with them all day, every day, just given the state of what is happening. And I also understand the frustration of like not making shots. The officiating at points in this game was a little bit shaky. I don't think it was nearly as bad as some people are making it out to be. I don't think it's nearly as bad as what we've seen in a lot of other games this year. But like, especially in the 4th quarter, when the Magic were like trying to play with intensity, trying to make a comeback, it seemed like all of a sudden there were a lot of like ticky-tack stuff that the officials were calling. And that's what I think led to the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope tech. But bro, you're 3rd in the league in technical fouls. You're not playing like particularly well this season. You've been playing a little bit better as of late, but you need to be like the standard setter in terms of composure on this team. You're the dude with 2 rings. He's got 2 Larry O'Brien replica trophies, I believe, in his living room, right? Like, you are the guy that we need to be the example to the rest of the team. Like, yo, even when things are not going your way, we need to keep our composure. On the other side of that, I do think there is something to like sticking up for yourself and sticking up for your teammates when you don't feel like you're being given the correct like respect by the officials. But you start to lose a little bit of the benefit of the doubt when it becomes as frequent as it has been recently. And when you're now tied for 3rd in the league in technical fouls, we're not halfway through the season, and you're almost halfway to the point where getting additional technical fouls, you could be suspended. Like once you hit number 16, what is it? I think you told me earlier, every two additional technical fouls, you're suspended for a game. So I just want to see a little bit more composure out of the guy that needs to be like the standard setter for this team in that respect.
Yeah, for me, there's 2 parts to this. Number one, I think you and I both, Jonathan, would agree there is a time to get a technical foul, right? There are times when it's like you said, whether it's backing up your team, whether it's sticking up for one of your teammates or your coach or whatever, or defending a terrible call, or the game is basically over and you want to send a message and set the tone. There are certain times for that. But you're right. I mean, 7 of them through 37 games, especially when you're not contributing to the benefit of this team most nights, offensively at least, right? That was one of the things with Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace, the king of technical fouls back in the day. He could get away with it on every team he played for because he was really dang good, right? He was an amazing basketball player, and they would put up with his technical fouls because he was an all-star and he won basketball games and all kind of stuff. Like
Draymond to a certain point.
Sort of. I don't want to disrespect Rasheed Wallace by putting Draymond in the same sentence, but
I mean, the dude is a 4-time NBA champion. You don't have to like
carried,
it,
carried by Steph and Clay.
I think there's not to make this a Warriors thing. I think there's a shared amount of carrying.
Call me Chris one more time. No, just kidding.
Speaking of Jet Howard.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, but anyway, yeah, I just need more from KCP. And this game might be just like the boiling point for me, because you're right, he has been much better lately. But when you look across this roster and look at who's missing, he's got to be one of the guys that steps up. And not that he needs to go out there and score 28, but he needs to score the basketball more than 2 freaking points in a game where we have no offense from anybody. It just has to happen. I don't care how. Again, even if he doesn't take a 3 all night, start getting in the paint. You're capable of I know mid-range jumpers are illegal these days, it feels like. Pull up from mid-range from time to time. You can make those. We've seen you do it. I don't know, man. I need more from KCP or I'm going to go crazy.
I need more from a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I feel like, or I'm going to go crazy. And it's sort of this balancing act that we have to play with guys at this point, because some people are like criticizing the depth of this team. I'm like, a team can only be so deep without having a primary option available.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, this team is deep enough for the 12th or 13th guy to replace the 4th or 5th guy on any given night. This team is not deep enough for the 5th or 6th guy to replace Paolo Banchero, Franz, Wagner, and Jalen Suggs. Right? So it's like, yes, guys need to step up, but at the same time, we have to be realistic with what we're asking of these guys. But I'm not even like, yes, it is frustrating that KCP hasn't been as effective offensively in shooting the basketball as we all thought he was going to be. But again, as we've talked about before, we were asking this dude to be like a 4th, 5th option offensively and just knock down open threes and defend at a high level. And we've also talked about how since the injury of Paolo, but particularly since the injury of Franz, since there is no true number 1 on this team now, Jalen and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and all these other guys are really playing out of position and playing out of role at this point. So I'm trying not to hold too much against those guys, but like when you're down, I think we were down 10 or 12 with a few minutes left in the 4th tonight, and you're picking up a technical foul. It's like you talked about, there are times that it is like a good idea and it maybe is necessary to go out and pick up a tech, but it feels like the majority of the techs that KCP has picked up this year, they just haven't really been the right time to do that. Last 5 games, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 10.6 points, 42% from the floor, 29.6% from behind the arc. If we go to the last 10 games, I'm trying to give them a bigger sample size here. Last 10 games, 11.1 points, 41% from the floor, 30% from behind the arc. So like our criticisms of his play aren't completely unfounded. Now, I do still think he's bringing a ton of value defensively every single night, but like we need him just to knock down shots. Like we desperately, desperately need that. I also think that this team, without Franz, without Paolo, they've always sort of struggled with like elite shot blockers, even with Paolo, even with Franz in the lineup. Like I'm going back to last year. We didn't have a big sample size of it this year, but those are the games like where we would play against like a Mitchell Robinson or a Walker Kessler or an Anthony Davis. Those would always be the games where it felt like they would start to shy away from the rim a little bit more and fall a little bit more in love with jumpers. And especially not having the size that those guys provide, we struggled immensely with the size of the Utah Jazz tonight, especially when they would go to like the Kessler, Filipowski lineups. Like the Magic had a pretty good start to this game. And then like Filipowski, I can never say this kid's name, Kyle Filipowski, comes in and they're playing this like double big lineup, and they immediately go on this like 6-0 run and take the lead and pretty much never looked back from that point. Kessler only had 1 block tonight, but it felt like he probably altered 9 or 10 shots at the rim and probably deterred another 10 or so attempts at the rim. Like guys would see him down there and wouldn't even attempt it. And I think that did go into the 47 attempts from 3 from behind the arc and the lack of getting to the free throw line, all that kind of stuff. I would have liked to see more Goga and J.I. or Goga and Wendell Carter lineups to try to deter that a little bit. Part of it is like they were daring the Magic to shoot. So of course guys are going to sag off and just say, yeah, go ahead, like shoot. Or if you're going to drive, we're just going to funnel you right into Walker Kessler. And I do think like defensively, this is like a bad matchup, just like these perimeter or not perimeter, like these premier shot blockers, like a Walker Kessler, which I know we floated around, like making a trade for Walker Kessler. If our big rotation was Walker Kessler and Goga Batadze, I'm sure he's like offensively, he's got to be frustrating to watch. But dude, 17 rebounds tonight and altered or deterred probably 10, 15 other attempts. Like it's just his defensive presence is pretty impressive.
Jonathan, are you okay if we go into like a therapy session here? I know we talked about it at the beginning, but yeah. At this point,
Hey, Howard like did have a 4-minute stretch tonight. That was fun. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, glad you got to say that. I just like want to take a moment and that sometimes when something doesn't go as you planned, you gotta leave space for mourning. Okay. And I just want to have a moment of mourning for what this season has been so far. Because as fun as it has been, like there have been some truly amazing moments that we will never forget. It at the same time, in the same breath, has been nothing like any of us hoped or planned. And tonight, I think it was just the tipping point for me, right? Because of the performance and everything, I just go, man, I miss seeing our best players out there. And golly, what could have been, right? And all the things that this team, you said it earlier, all the things this team wants to achieve are still on the table. I don't know about the getting the 3 seed in the playoffs, like you mentioned. I don't. That doesn't feel attainable to me. However, the seeding is not what's important, right? What's important is what happens after that, right? And that is full. Everything is on the table for this team, right? You get healthy. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. You get healthy. Certain matchups fall your way. Anything's possible in the playoffs. So the fact that is still reachable to me is what is keeping my Orlando Magic fandom afloat right now. Because this whole riding the
fandom afloat. Talk about melodramatic.
No, but I'm saying like we rode this wave of like next man up and all this kind of stuff as long as we could. But I feel like that tank is empty now, right?
That muscle is fatigued,
right? And to me, it's like I don't know how much longer we can survive on this. Not just because it doesn't feel sustainable, but also when we talk about the week ahead that's coming up. We are about to go through a very difficult stretch of games over the next 2 weeks. And it just feels like we've got to get Paolo back or it's going to get really ugly really fast. And so I'm in mourning right now for this season.
I agree with you.
All the things that we want to happen can still happen. I just want to say I am mourning what has happened so far.
Let me throw a little bit of optimism in here. Yes, there is a very difficult stretch of games coming up. New York, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Boston, Denver. But after that, there's almost like an equally long stretch of winnable games.
That's right.
Toronto, Portland, Detroit, Miami, Portland, Utah, Golden State, which is a winnable game. Golden State has not been awesome. Sacramento is in the next game. They've not been awesome. Denver's been very up and down. San Antonio, Atlanta, Charlotte, Atlanta, Memphis, Washington, Cleveland, Golden State, Toronto. Like there's a lot of winnable games in there.
That's right.
And I would also like to say that everything that you just said is true to an extent. Like if we are looking at the 30,000 foot view of this season, nothing is over. It's right. Not doom and gloom. It's a legitimate miracle that we are 21-16 at this point.
Absolutely.
But to your point, if this season did go the way that we had hoped and expected, you absolutely cannot convince me that there is not a way or a possibility that we would be the 2 seed right now. That we could be, 27 and 9. Like you cannot convince me that wouldn't have been possible had we. And I'm not asking for everything. Like, not that I wanted this to happen, but even like keep the Mo Wagner ACL, right? Like even if that would have happened, and Wendell would have missed the time that he would have missed, and Gary would have missed the time that he would have missed, and even Jalen would have missed the time that he would have missed. Just give me Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner for 95% of our games, and I think there's a legitimate possibility, like a very likely possibility that we're the 2 seed right now.
Right.
And to me, that's what I'm mourning is like man, like as fun as this is and has been, we could be having the time of our Magic loving freaking lives right now as the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference and just beating the crap out of people on a nightly basis.
Yep.
That's what I'm mourning so far. But I'm leaving the door open for that to still be a possibility. Right? Like, you get Paolo back. I know there's going to be a reacclimation period of guys like getting used to playing with Paolo again. And Paolo is understandably most likely going to be a little bit rusty when he comes back. Maybe he's not. If Paolo Banchero comes back, and there's also the possibility of first game back, Paolo looks amazing, and then is a little bit up and down for the first couple of weeks as he regains his footing. Like, he might come back. If he comes back Monday against the Knicks and drops 41 in a win, and then it has like 15 the next night on like 16 shots, nobody should be panicking. Like, he's coming off of missing, 2+ months.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is, and I'm not even saying he's going to be back Monday. Tom Thibodeau seems to think that Paolo's back, but he's not as of right now.
Paolo's coming back tonight. So what do we know?
Nope. Nobody knows anything. Who knows? But yeah, I think in terms of like the therapy session, that's where I'm at. That I am just fatigued, and I don't want to say like I'm tired of this. Like, I'm fatigued from not watching Paolo play basketball and not watching Franz play basketball and having our best players.
Right. And I think that's
every single game just having to be a dogfight. I'm tired of it.
Right. I think that's also the hard part is, as fatigued as we are, as exhausted as we are, this team is still like the 11th best record in basketball in spite of all of those things. Right. Like, how, I have no idea. And maybe that's part of why we're exhausted, is because the journey we've taken to be 21-16 has been absolutely exhausting.
Think of how these guys must feel.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sitting here watching these games. I cannot imagine the mental and physical exhaustion that the guys that are playing are having to put out to get these wins. So again, it's just all combined. It's all come to a head tonight. And I'm just like, man, I'm over this. As much fun as this has been awesome. I'm over it. I'm ready for guys to get back and get healthy, and let's get this train back on the track. But again, the destination has not changed. It is still there. It is still for the taking. Just got to get guys back and get them back hopefully pretty soon.
Yeah. Was it after the Miami game where we said, like, with the injuries, it feels like this is like the team of anti-destiny, and but maybe with wins like that, we actually are a team of destiny. There might be something to that, because if you go back to the Franz Wagner injury, and the first game without Franz was the December 8th win over the Phoenix Suns, like, that game came down to the wire, and then you lose 3 in a row. You have the miraculous comeback against Miami, the miraculous comeback against Boston. Then you have the Tyler Hero buzzer beater, December 26th. You get blown out by the Knicks. You have the miraculous comeback win over the Brooklyn Nets. And then you have Wednesday's loss to Detroit, which was not great. And then you have the win over Toronto. And then you have tonight's disaster loss. Like, I know we mentioned this at the top, but like, Miami, Boston, Brooklyn, like, you're those games away from losing like 11 out of your last 12. Like, it's a miracle that we're not in full. Like, if this game had lost 11 out of the last 12, and you take away those 3 losses, then we're 18-19 at this point. We're under 500. I would be in full panic mode, doom and gloom mode. Even if it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate. I'll be the first to admit that I can get overly emotional and overreactionary to a lot of this stuff. But 18-19 would put you'd be right there with the Pistons. So you'd be like 8-9, like somewhere in there, which would feel crappy. But then you just have to turn around and be like, hey, you're only 3 games back of the 4 seed. Right. If Paolo comes back, you could easily make up that ground in 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been an exhausting year. Like, very happy the way that things have, all things considered, all the context, very happy to be where we are. But when we look at what we've been dealing with literally since the 5th game of the season, losing our best player, and then immediately you go on a 5-game losing streak, that was terrible. Then you have this awesome euphoric run of winning, 12 out of 13. And then 3 games after that, you lose your second best player, a guy that was an MVP candidate for the first couple of months of the year. And since then, it just feels like it has been an absolute rock fight every single night.
Which, by the way, that was a month ago. December 7th is when Franz got hurt. That was a month ago now. We've been doing this for a month without Paolo and Franz. That is crazy to me.
And when you say, like, hey, we've been doing this, it's like, yeah, we've won 5 games since then. 3 of them were acts of God. Like,
yeah, I mean, 5 and 8 without those 2 guys is still very impressive.
It is impressive, and those wins are still impressive, but like, we should have lost all 3 of those games.
Yeah, and you
didn't. I don't have
beat Miami. We should have beat Miami the second time.
You are right. You are correct. I'm just trying to express that it's a very weird place to be emotionally.
100% agree.
Yeah, it's very easy to feel very good about this, but it's also very easy to look at it and be like, what are we happy about?
Yeah.
You know, like
it's rough.
We're happy that we're getting down 21 and 19 and 18 points, and you know, we're down 12 and 14 with 6 minutes to go in games. Like, but yeah, then you win. It's a very just odd spot to be in.
Yep.
Yeah, I like you said, my tank is just empty. Like, I can't imagine how these guys are feeling, and that's why I'm trying to err on the side of not being overly critical, because they're kind of in like an impossible situation. Like, even if these guys play really well, there's still a chance that you lose a lot of these games. So yeah, I think, I don't know. I feel better. I feel like I've vented. I don't know if you have anything else that you have to get off.
I wouldn't say
chest.
I feel better, but it was nice to share those thoughts at least.
You know. Yeah. All right. Well, let's make ourselves feel worse. Let's take a look at the week ahead.
Yeah.
Monday.
Great. Let's do that.
At New York. Then you've got a couple of days off. You're home for Minnesota. You got a back-to-back, though. You're home for Minnesota on Thursday. Then on Friday, you take on Milwaukee at home. Off Saturday, you play Philadelphia, who's been playing a lot better as of late, on Sunday. So 4 games this week. Kevin, before you give me your prediction, I wanted you to try and guess my impression right now. Ready?
Okay.
I'm just going to say one word. Wow.
Who
Who is that?
Matthew McConaughey.
No.
I mean, not. Sorry, that's embarrassing. Wow. What's his name? What's the guy's name? Blonde dude.
Uh-huh. You got it. You just don't have the name.
Can't get his name. Hold on. I can't get his name. He's from freaking Loki. He's from
Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, and his name, I can't think of his name. I can't.
His last name is Wilson.
Last name is Wilson?
I'm trying to make a joke here, and you're bombing this. His name is Owen Wilson. I was going to say, I don't know about Owen Wilson, but we're going 0-4.
Oh, well.
This week.
Yeah. Well, this joke bomb, just like the Magic might do this week. So you're going 0-4?
I think you find a way to win one of the 2 at home, or one of the back-to-back, but I don't know, man. Like, Minnesota seems to be falling apart and spiraling. It's really hard for me to say that the Magic aren't going to win a single game this week, but like, when I look at it, I just, they're not going to be favored in any of these games.
No.
Like, they're, I think, 11.5 points underdogs Monday against New York, which everything. Now, we get Paolo back, I will change my mind. If Paolo's back Monday versus the Knicks, I'll say you go 2-2.
Whoa.
No Paolo, you're 0-4.
Wow.
Most likely 1-3, but I'm trying to be optimistic.
Wow. Okay.
With Paolo returning.
Yeah, for me,
big if.
For me, I'm going to say 1-3. Now. Yeah. Okay, this is what I'm going to say. First off, do you think Jalen's back Monday? When do you think Jalen comes back?
I don't think Jalen's back Monday.
Okay. Thursday?
Maybe. Anthony
Sunday.
Black missed how many games with a back contusion?
3 or 4?
3 games,
or 5?
4 games.
Yeah.
Jalen's
Do you think he's
missed
back
1.5
next Sunday
now.
against the Sixers?
I would like to say yes.
Okay. And Paolo, what's your, let's say predictions. When do you think Paolo's coming back?
Sunday versus Philadelphia.
Okay. So that means you think we'll have Paolo and Jalen Sunday. Not that you think, but your prediction would be Paolo and Jalen Sunday against Philadelphia. Because if that's the case, I'm picking us to beat Philly.
My blind hope has Jalen and Paolo coming back on Sunday.
Okay. I'm going to say I'm gonna. You said 1-3. That's your official prediction.
I said 0-4, bro.
0-4. Okay, then I'm gonna go 1-3 because I do think you get a win. Even I don't want to say even without Jalen. I don't think that's true.
I just don't. I'm not confident enough in Paolo coming back this week for me to pick that. For me to say that he'll be back and we'll.
I think the Magic find a win. It's either Philly or Minnesota for me. Minnesota is an actual mess. If you guys have not been following, Minnesota has some real problems behind the scenes that is spilling over.
I wouldn't even call it behind the scenes.
Well, that's true. You're right. It's not even behind the scenes anymore. You're right. I was saying it has spilled over to how they're playing on the court. They're not playing well. And so I think you have a chance to catch them on Thursday. The Magic have had a couple days of rest. Could be the day Paolo comes back. Who knows? Jalen might play. Who knows? I think they'll find a way to win one of those games. If I had to pick one, it'd be Minnesota. So I'm going to say 1-3. And I would probably say max 2-2 if everybody comes back healthy. But I'll say 1-3.
Yeah,
it's a tough week.
I don't know. It's hard for me
Even
to
if we're
picture.
fully healthy, by the way. If we're fully healthy, this is a tough week. Okay, so it's not just because
fully healthy. I'm saying this is a 3-1 week.
Maybe. But you could say we could go 2-2 and I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah, but 3 of these games being at home, yeah,
that's true.
It's Kia's a different type of environment when we're healthy and winning games. But it is difficult for me to say a Jamal Mosley coach team won't find a way to just will one of these games. Fine, I'll say 1-3. That's my heart. That's my heart saying 1-3. But yeah, if you're hearing a wow from me a week from now on next Monday's pod, I won't be shocked at all.
All right.
All right, let's wrap this one up, Kev. Unless you have anything else that you would like to mention.
I want to go home.
Yes. Well, you are home. You're 10 feet from your house.
You're right.
January 17th, Magic take on the Celtics on the road. We'll be at Stadium Club, Caribe Royale, Orlando. Be there. Really going to be a great time. Looking forward to that. And be at Jam Fest this Saturday from 11 to 7 over at Jam Hot Chicken, 400 West New England Avenue in Winter Park. Be there. Be square. That's going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Six Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Wow.
Thanks for listening to the Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!